fast forward, you come watch on so age politics avenue. Shana Swam say political stories are training with make headlines and a gemre na EDB Epsomo Awaha. NDM Humbraximu. Mr. say Emo Rain Simu. National Swam say any AD the Kaya, and NDM. Or Maria so which must subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so share now for friends to answer into me. The mission say why is Eddie Amami. Fast forward, Yanko Yansimu. Ghana Bar Association. Ghana Bar Association. Na Meno Kasei. Ene NDC communicated be akotna UTV na nsema na Xposes o expose GBA no onia nya asem koto akra wo kan ina ne se nkofu komi se bia omotimi de petition akodan aban no se ebeya Ghana Bar Association no ebeya nka yingu no kura den ka yem form foforo eno na abaye edi egina so ono so okase ofo so pa because Ghana Bar Association ma ye bias a che sene mamin enso esie no na meno okase die Ghana Bar Association is under scrutiny meno okase kianake yehwe se petition akwakoto eyo mampanyanim no obehwe na waye ho entotwe ene hihye ama omunso request no etimi abamusa mahoma yensemre yenko ensemu ne yehwe ne yeko ene de ba.
Did you hear the GBA say a word? No. The domestic debt exchange program, it left our mothers, our grandmothers, the older people very impoverished. They looked into your face and said, we would give your monies to you. It even saw the former CJ picketing at the finance ministry. We all could attest to that. Did you hear the GBA say anything? But is another point Mr. Bento made earlier that if there was, because these GBA, I mean, the leadership has been different. And so if you have criticism against the GBA, you look at the leaders that were in place when they were silent rather than kind of putting everybody together and saying that you're being selective or doing selective advocacy. Beatrice, I'll come to that. Let me just end. Don't break my flow. Let me just end. Then you would appreciate where I'm coming from. The last one is the Galamsey Menace. When the then government issued license, as if they were issuing granules, candies to party cohorts who lacked experience in basic mining. Did you hear the GBA talking? And so now, there's even the latest one from Manasseh, the fourth estate. He's talking about the licenses that had been issued, about 5, to get into our forest areas since independence, or since we started mining in this country. But between 2022 to 2024, when the NPP took over, they gave 10, twice of what we've ever experienced in this country. That is from Manasseh. You can cross-check it. I think it just came out yesterday or 2 days ago. And so with all this, why won't somebody petition the Supreme Court? What are they seeking to achieve? I can't mention his name, but I can mention the Honorable Roxanne, the other petitioner who is Israel, and Tete. Mr. Tete and the society. You see, what are they seeking to achieve? They're just saying we should embrace our diversity. We should embrace fairness and equality, which can be found in Article 17. They're also saying that we should have freedom of association. Because it looks like, mind you, not every lawyer is a member of GBA. And so if we are restricted, that there's only one professional body, mind you, some lawyers also think that the GBA have lost their moral values. That is what some think, some of the lawyers, and that is why they won't join the association. So if that is the case, we should open up, allow other people to come in. Perhaps they would serve the interests of these lawyers who are yet to identify. That is just what the plaintiffs are saying. let me say this. I particularly paid attention to the paragraph 4 and 5. I'm not going to read. But you could see about 9 articles.
Yes.
And GBA is featured in all the 9 articles. Be it Judicial Council, Rules of Court Committee, Police Council, Regional Police Committee, National Media Commission, Regional Prisons Committee, Prison Services Council, Lands Commission, Regional Lands Commission. How? They are enjoying an exclusive status, and it has encouraged monopoly. So let's open up. That is what the petitioners are saying. So they have a case.
They have a case.
I think they have a case. And let me add this. For an association with a leader of the GBA, bitches, listen carefully, with a leader of the GBA who almost or aspired to become Ghana's first lady. Why do I say so? Her husband was an aspiring flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party.
You can have a husband and a wife which have different political views.
That
so
I agree.
Are you insinuating that
just,
the fact that Joe Gate is a senior member of the NPP means that the wife is equally so?
You cannot take away public perception. Because the leader, I personally saw her on campaign platforms, sharing Sobolo, T-shirts, jumping, clapping, advocating that people should vote for the spouse. Don't tell me it would have an influence on her judgment with the decision she has to take for the GBA. And so for this reason, some lawyers perhaps would not want to associate with GBA. And so once we have, alternative groupings, then we would not have complaints. So the petitioners are testing what the Constitution has to say and on how we can embrace diversity. That is just it.
Let me, Mr. Bento was on the line before we lost him, so let me get your concluding thought, and if you have any comment on what Madam Obin has just told us before I come to Madam Ayana.
Just want to say, I think there is a bit of overstimulation in this whole exercise. I don't disagree with my brother Roxon in terms of what he's trying to do. I am just wondering why it is generating so much controversy. Maybe all Roxon wants to do is to get clarification that another institution can be formed. But I repeat, I don't think anybody has stopped anybody from forming another institution. And where the rubber meets the road is that he must try and form one. And if he does and somebody stops him, then I think we'll have an issue.
Let me get your thoughts. And Mr. Bent, I want you to hold on for us. Let me get the thought of Madam Ayana on this. Like I was asking Madam Obin earlier, the petitioners are claiming that they are in court because they want to uphold the Constitution. But Madam Obin seems to be linking the political bit to it beyond the bit about monopoly and why GBA doesn't have exclusive rights as an association.
Yeah, I quite agree with her. She, when she was referring to the 1992 issue, about the Constituent Assembly and the boycott of the GBA. The interesting aspect of it was that at that time, lawyers who were inclined to the NDC, joined in, but the others didn't because they were inclined to the NPP, and they were mostly those that were belonging to the GBA. But today, it's different. What we are beginning to see is that the GBA has become sort of an appendage of one political party, and another political party also wants to have their own. This is the way I am looking at it. And if we are not careful, we are going to have a problem of one government comes and we have a GBA that is leaning towards it, and another one comes and then they are leaning towards the other. Why I'm saying this is that I want to know where we are going to place this original GBA in the event that Dafiomokbo and his group also win that situation and are able to also form their own association. Where will this association, GBA, be Because you see, this conference that they had, for instance, I quite remember that Beatrice was here. She's a lawyer. She didn't go because this thing is a voluntary organization. So I think that we must open it out for us to have a discussion as to what or who is going to represent us, Ghanaians, when it comes to legal issues. That advocacy, that fight for justice. Do we want to have, like the British have, you know, a council, a legal council of various associations, legal associations? Then we have representation from all those associations speaking for us. I think that is where we ought to be going. Because if we leave it as it is and we say, okay, Dafiamakwa goes to court and his group goes to court, then they win the case and they decide that, okay, we are going to form an association. I can assure you most of them are going to be NDC. Because today NDC has the lawyers as well. Before, it was mostly NPP. That's the truth. You understand? So we have to be very careful. And I am hoping that if the Dafiamakwa and the group are able to win this case, we as a country, we will still sit and decide on what to do. We need a council or a legal body that will be representative of all of us. That would be very important for us to see, because at this rate, the way this country is polarized, and let's no one say that this country is not polarized. You even go to the market and you can see that one person says, oh, the economy is doing well. Another person says, oh, the economy is not. And you can always tell the differences. So I am hoping that this thing will come to fruition and we will be able to settle this matter. But we should win. Ghana must win this. Not a situation where we will have two GBAs or two associations. There's the Ghana Bar Association and then the Association of Ghana Lawyers. I think that was what grew and all that. It wouldn't work in our favor.
And I want to come to you, Mr. Bento, just to get your final thoughts on this, and we'll move on to the Richard Japa case regarding the former Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame. But let me read this statement coming from Stephen Penn from WA. He says, good morning, Beatrice. Growing up, I admired the GBA for their advocacy on national issues. However, years down the line, it has become moribund. The Constitutional Review Committee should recommend it expunged from our 1992 Constitution. All other national associations will clamor to be recognized by the Constitution if the GBA is allowed to remain in our national Constitution. The likes of the GMA, NAT, etc. are all national in character and deserve similar recognition, if not better. We have noted the GBA's political lineage in the Fourth Republic. And the question I want to ask you is, if you look at this writ filed by Dafiamakwa and the two others, they seem to be suggesting that they want to uphold the Constitution. How do we clean that perception that the GBA over the years has become politicized so that people feel more comfortable that this association is really representing what it says it is, even spelled out on its own website?
Perceptions are figments of people's imaginations. They can be right or wrong. I think that it is true that the nature of the GBA itself, the nature of the legal profession is such that it is likely to be very politically engaged. So to that extent, I think if you say it is political or whatever it is, there is even a necessity for it to be very politically engaged. The issue has been that some, regimes or some executives of the GBA have not been as vocal as others would have wanted them to be. And there are people who think that the GBA should not be that politically active. So to that extent, perceptions should be left to be perceptions. It is true that in the past the GBA was a bit too reticent. And it is true that this particular GBA is more vocal than in the past. So, like I said, we are basically accusing an organization of the sense of its executives in the past, since which clearly the present executives are departing from. So, let us see that for what it is. Again, the issue is, has anybody stopped anybody from starting another association? They can go ahead and do so. As for the mention of the GBA in the Constitution, it is because at the time it was necessary. There was only one GBA, there has only been one GBA, and for the foreseeable future, there was only going to be one GBA. And there's a lot of international precedents to that. If you go, most countries in the world have one overarching professional association profession. And in this case, it was the GBA. There was apart from what Mr. Wardbrook did, there has been no real serious challenge to the GBA. And Mr. Wardbrook kind of fizzled out. So there's suggestion that there may not be any other, that it will stand as strong and be as broad as the GBA. It's well-founded. But it is by no means foreclosing anybody's interest if they want to form another one. So I will repeat that I think there's a bit of overstimulation here. What I would suggest to be a starting point is that group that wants another association should just go ahead and form one. Nothing stops them from doing so. And if they do so, it is possible that they will need some sort of resistance because of how things have been in the past. If they need the resistance that defines the problem, then they can go ahead and deal with that. I will not be opposed to anybody trying to form a different association. I would simply say I doubt if it will be viable going forward. So I think it's a bit of overstimulation, but they have a right to do so. So let's see how this turns out.
Your argument suggests that you probably may disagree with that comment coming through to us, that perhaps we should expunge it from the Constitution and should be seen as any other national association, like we have the Ghana Medical Association, not among others. How do you foresee that panning out?
The line was changed. I didn't get a question.
I'm saying that listening to your submission, it presupposes that you would disagree with those who are saying that we should actually expunge the GBA from the Constitution so that it is seen as any other national organization, like you have the GMA, which is equally the Ghana Medical Association, which is equally a voluntary kind of association. You disagree with that, I suppose?
No, I didn't say that. The GBA has always been what it is. And I said the mention of the GBA in the Constitution was a matter of necessity. You had a situation where since we started from independence, there has only been a GBA. And to that extent, where there was a need to bring them in, to ask them to contribute personnel for some reason, it was the GBA we were going to use. Okay, there could have been an omnibus term to try and bring in others, but at the time it was just the GBA. So I'm saying, given that it was necessary at the time to put their name there and they were put there, if today we have another institution, we can go ahead and then construe it as we should. But even today, we don't have another GBA. So if anybody goes to change it, what other institution are we talking about?
So they want another association. They want another association. Forgive me, Mr. Bento, just to bring clarity, you asked the question. They want another association that would equally be recognized as the GBA is enjoying right now.
I am saying there is no other association. So the first thing to do is to form the association. In law, there is something called the doctrine of mootness. If we go to try and change the Constitution in the name of making room for another association, we will change the Constitution and there is no other association. Let that association be formed, let it stand, let it grow, and then we will change the law to accommodate it. Today, when you don't have any association and somebody wants to change the law, they can change the law and then go to bed. And they would have stimulated ourselves for nothing. So I repeat, the first thing to do is to try and form another association, make it viable, raise it to the level where it can actually contend with the GBA. Then we can proceed to make room for it. So I don't disagree with them, but I think they have to do things in a certain order, and that's where I disagree. First, they should form an association, and then proceed to court to try and give that association the same place as the GBA. That's all.
Mr. Bench, I still want you to hold on for us because we'll be going into the Richard Jakpa case very shortly. But, Madam Obi, you've got some final words on this very subject before we move on to the next one.
Okay, I'll just say that Mr. Bento keeps on saying they can form another association. He keeps on reiterating that point. There is so much monopoly and power that has been wielded to the GBA. So until we dissolve that, that is when others would be encouraged. In any case, people have shown interest. And so many groups, you would see that once the Supreme Court gives an interpretation, you will see the number of people, the number of lawyers that will spring up. Just like how NAGRAT, consent teachers have survived. Even with the Broadcast Association, GJA, GBA, and the likes have survived. Let's give a chance to the law fraternity. That is just it. That is just.
Let me get your final word on this, Madam Ayana, before I go back to Mr. Bento.
I think that I agree with those who think that the GBA must be expunged. I think that we should expunge it, and then also give opportunity to other associations that might be coming up, and then probably out of that form a council, a legal council of some sort. That is maybe a bar council, a Ghana Bar Council, which will be representative of the various law associations that might be coming up. Who knows? Tomorrow we might wake up and then we'll have another Ghana Association of Criminal Lawyers, association of other forms of law. And all those people will then come into that council that I think we should have and then expunge the GBA. The monopoly is too much, and I think the polarization in it is something that we can't deal with.
We ain't some who do course watch on so I'm not so jim or so bad in the Dominion. Unia, it was about room near some consequence of EGH Politics Avenue.